What we saying, people? Hope everyone had a good Christmas. And I ultimately hope everyone has a better New Year, obviously. A couple of days now until that takes place. Video today. There are actually a couple of games tonight, actually. Which is obviously prompted the reason why I'm doing a video now. So we'll go through match day 17, the results, obviously. We'll start off at the G-Tech. Obviously, my beloved Spurs were there for Brentford. Defensively, we're quite pitiful, I'm going to be honest. And I'll always admit truths with regards to my own club, because that's what you're supposed to do. As a fan, you're supposed to be seeing the good and the bad. And obviously, come up with a plan of action of how to handle your emotions when things don't go your way. And this club has been disappointing me since day one. But 2-2 against Brentford. Good comeback, but we've been doing that all season pretty much. I think we're one of the top 3 teams at the moment that's picked up the most points from losing positions, which is a credit in itself, but we need to stop putting ourselves in those positions in the first place. So Brentford went 2-0 up. Goals from Janelt and Ivan Toney early on in the second half, and then we blitzed them after that. 2 quick fire goals, a great header from Kane and a good finish from Højbjerg, sort of within 5 minutes off each other. The game was a bit bitty. Had most of the possession as well. Pretty much took most of the chances also. We look better in the second half in general of all games. And the thing that annoys me is that we don't start that way. And everyone's talking about it. What are we doing that's different in the first half to the second half? And it's intensity. Start of the season, I think I saw Matt Doherty say there's not going to be a team in the Premier League that's going to be able to handle Spurs when the 90 minutes are up, because Spurs just keep on going. And we do. That's why most of the results we've got have come in the second half. So it's not rocket science. But we need to put games away in the first half. So then in the second half, we do tend to obviously be stronger there. So then we can obviously just pattern it up and then obviously finish the game. But we need to work on that defence. Absolutely need to work on that defence. Eric Dyer is not a defender you take seriously if you're looking to win honours. Ben Davies is another one you don't take seriously if you're looking to win honours. Longley, I've never been a fan of anyway. To be fair, he hasn't been that bad, but he's not that good either. Christian Romero is needed. I think we need another defender this coming window in January. Gvardiol we could have got last summer, but we obviously stalled. Bastoni didn't want to come for whatever reason. De Vrij we didn't even talk to. Skriniar we didn't talk to. There's a few players that we're linked with which we didn't get over the line, and it's starting to show a little bit now. But game ended 2-2. Not overly upset about the result, but I'm upset with the way that we're playing in order to get ourselves out of certain situations. And we got Aston Villa next on New Year's Day. I'm actually going to be at that game. So hopefully that's another 3 points for us. But we shall see. I'll get into that a little bit later on. Moving on to St Mary's. I called this a draw last week. God knows why. Southampton are atrocious. Brighton absolutely blew them away. 3-1 win to Brighton. I'm not really sure what I was expecting from it, to be quite honest with you. I did mention it to be a draw, but I wasn't expecting much to happen. But Brighton have just pretty much continued from where they left off. 7th in the league at the moment, and I think they've got Arsenal next at home, which is a tough game for Arsenal. Arsenal need to be stopped. We'll also get into their game a little bit later on as well, because they've got a nasty run coming, and this is obviously where the wheels are going to start to fall off. So walk with me. We'll get there. We'll make it to the promised land, I promise you. Arsenal fans, I don't care, innit? I want you to give me all the energy, innit? Give it all to me now, innit? Comment, whatever. Do what you got to do, because there's going to come a time in this season when you lot are not at the top of the table, and then I get to get at you, innit? So it's just what it is. Leicester versus Newcastle at the King Power. I did say Newcastle probably win this, probably. I did say an outside bet would be a draw. Again, what was I thinking? Newcastle, even with the injuries to Callum Wilson and to St Maximin and to Andre Isak, it's not hindering them in any way. They were second in the league for a little while, until Man City obviously beat Leeds, and we'll get into that as well. But Newcastle just seems to be rolling over everybody. No Europe, play once a week Eddie Howe seems to have got a solid foundation, obviously, from how his team obviously plays, and they're scoring bag full of goals. So you can't really ask anything more. And the annoying thing about this is Newcastle are probably going to take one of the top 4 spaces now. So that leaves room for only, Manchester City obviously will do it. I hope to God Arsenal fall out of it. I hope we get into it. And then you're looking at one of Man United, Chelsea, and Liverpool. We've picked up another couple of results as well. We'll get into that as well in a little bit. But yeah, Newcastle 3-0 winners at the King Power Stadium. I think Leicester City are just going to be one of those. They're going to be under, around about mid-table. Newcastle, I think, going to kick on for Champions League placement. And then we're really going to see if Newcastle be a force, because obviously they're heavily financially backed by Saudi Arabian owners. So watch your space. Crystal Palace versus Fulham was a bit of a shock, especially at Selhurst. But then I read back that Crystal Palace haven't won a game in like 4. I'm not sure if that's correct, but they didn't look like a team capable of doing anything, and they had a player sent off as well. Don't get me wrong, Fulham are in fantastic form. I expected more from Crystal Palace, to be quite honest with you. No, sorry, that was the stat. Crystal Palace hadn't had a shot on target in 4 games. That was it. Which is mad to me, considering they have so much firepower. Zaha and, I think it was his name, Mateta. And they've got Edouard there as well. Elise pops up, Eze pops up with a couple of goals here and there. They're just not doing it. Then again, if you've got a striker like Jordan Ayew, boy, peak in it. I just don't understand it. But yeah, Palace went down to 10 men. Fulham ran out 3-0 winners. Mitrovic on the score sheet again. I did call that to happen, to be quite honest with you, so I'm proud of that again. Fulham going well, man. They're playing good football. They look good as well. So this is obviously something that Marcus Silva has been trying to implement since he's come to the Premier League. And now I think he's finally found a club that actually are going to back him. And he's getting the rewards. He's reaping all the rewards of this at the moment. So no, fair play to them. Fulham are actually going really, really well at the minute. 3-0 winners and remain in the top half of the table. And what are we now? Sort of coming up to January. So Fulham getting relegated? Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Speaking of relegation though, Everton versus Wolverhampton. Goodison Park. I think this was a 6-pointer. Both are still obviously very, very wildly down there. In the basement. I actually had Everton to pick up points because of Goodison, and again, boy, how wrong was I, because they did not show up at all. But I did mention that Everton would be in trouble this season, and I've always said it, and more because of Lampard than anything else. I actually like Everton Football Club as a club. Lampard's a bit of an idiot, to put it bluntly, and yeah, I don't know. I'm very compelled to put a bet on Everton actually being relegated from this league. I really, really do. I just don't see where their goals are coming from. They don't defend well, which is a madness to me, because they actually have a squad that's capable of being in the top 10. Everton should not be sat in 17th at the moment in the Premier League. So it's a little bit of a mad one. It is a little bit of a crazy one. But they ran out 2-1 losers against Wolverhampton, who are also struggling. The worst part about this is Wolves scored in the last minute of the game. So I know Everton did not have a really good Christmas at all. And the New Year's not about to get any better either, to be quite honest, which obviously we'll get into in a little bit. Aston Villa versus Liverpool at Villa Park. This was one of the ones that I had as an Aston Villa win, because I thought they'd spring a shock on Liverpool. It did not happen. Good opportunities, though, Aston Villa had, in the second half especially. They could have brought it back to parity on a few occasions, but didn't take their chances, and this is what happens. When you don't take your chances against a better teams tend to punish you, and that's exactly what happened. Liverpool didn't actually play all that well. I mean, they played like they should, but they weren't overly brilliant. You know, I mean, I've seen Liverpool blow teams away. Just wasn't that kind of game. Liverpool were just more clinical for me. A little bit like Manchester City at Leeds, which we'll get into in a minute as well. But for me, Liverpool did enough to beat Villa. And they're currently 6th in the league at the moment. So they're looking quite decent for a top 4 finish if they keep this form up. And they've just signed Cody Gakpo as well. I'm not overly distraught about that, to be quite honest, because whilst it's a decent proposition to have, a decent problem to have even, with their 6 strikers, the problem is fitting them all in. So you're going to upset somebody. So watch your space. We'll see. But another 3 points for Liverpool. They seem to be picking up a little bit of momentum. Aston Villa, I expect them to be round about mid-table with Unai Emery and then probably kick on from that point moving forward. Emirates, Arsenal versus West Ham. Was hoping West Ham would do us a favour. And they did in the first half, to be fair. They weren't actually that bad. They played quite well. But Arsenal have been doing quite decently in second halves of games. So, you know, they made mincemeat out of West Ham in the second half. Too many spaces, too many open sort of spaces in the back four, through the middle. Declan Rice was being dragged out of every single sinead as well. Lucas Paqueta didn't get into the game at all. It just wasn't a good game from the midfield or defence. Strikers played decent. I thought Jared Bowen was all right. I thought Mikel Antonio did okay as well. But ultimately, it wasn't enough. West Ham took the lead in the game in the first half, and then obviously Arsenal came back and peppered them in the second. So Arsenal remain top of the league, 5 points ahead of Manchester City. West Ham stay in the mire, still down in the bottom five. I think it might be a long old season for them as well, with Europe on the horizon for them too. Chelsea 2, Bournemouth 0. I called this, and I did say this would happen. Chelsea did run out 2-0 winners. Quite straightforward, not really much to write home about when it comes to Bournemouth. They didn't cover themselves in glory. They were just not very good. Chelsea, who also weren't very good, just had enough and had the better squad and used it to a better effect and put their chances away. That's all you can do. So they've won out 2-0 winners today, a couple of days back. Manchester United versus Nottingham Forest at Old Trafford. I did say Manchester United will win this game. I did say Rashford will be on the score sheet again, so I'm very happy to say that. Rashford is in the form of his life now. I don't think I've seen a Marcus Rashford like this one. He seems to be a lot more confident, taking his chances as well. Full of running, which he's always been anyway. But the smart thing about him is he's picking positions to score his goals. So he's very, very quick to get to his positions first and be there to obviously tuck him away. And he's finishing like a fully fledged striker now, which is obviously something in itself because he hasn't necessarily been a prolific goal scorer like that. But now he's starting to show that he can actually do it. And with Martial potentially being injured half the season as well, they're going to need to rely on a Marcus Rashford or look to, you know, sign someone in the market. Because obviously Mr. CR7, who was not the GOAT, has left. So, yeah, I had to get that little dig in there. So, apologies, Ronaldo fanboys. But yeah, comfortable 3-0 winners at Old Trafford for Man United. As for Nottingham Forest, something tells me that they're not going to be ready. I say this every week. I just don't feel like they're going. It won't be them. It's going to be someone that's obviously above them, a Southampton perhaps, who are literally bottom of the league at the moment. Coupled with, you know, an Everton and the Bournemouth. Something like that. Even West Ham, they're sort of down at the moment. So I see Nottingham Forest picking up a lot of points at home, and that's where they're going to obviously get most of their wins from. Final game on the Wednesday would have been Leeds United versus Manchester City from Ellen Road. Very, very eventful game. Haaland on the score sheet again with another 2. Has now taken him 14 Premier League games to score 20 Premier League goals, which is a madness when you think about it. I think Harry Kane needed 40 to reach 20. Fernando Torres needed 27 to reach 20. There's a whole bunch of other sort of stats with that. I couldn't read them all, but to get 20 goals in 14 games with over half the season to go is a madness to me. And his 2 goals were as easy as you can score them, to be quite honest. A little bit like Liverpool, Man City, not overly brilliant. Obviously did enough, have the better team, have the better squad, utilised it to the fullest of their ability. And they've got Haaland and players like Kevin De Bruyne and Jack Grealish and Phil Foden to bring off the bench, and Bernardo Silva and Riyad Mahrez, and the list goes on and on and on and on. This is why that team's going to win the league this season, because they have squad depth. Leeds United did actually come back into the game a little bit in the second half and actually cause Man City problems. But again, once you don't have a striker, a solid Patrick Bamford type striker, you're not going to score chances. Their only goal came from a centre-back's header. And by that time, the game was obviously too far gone. But yeah, Leeds United 1, Manchester City 3, and City are now second with 5 points off Arsenal, I believe it is, yeah, at the moment. And hopefully that gap will start to decrease even more. On to match day 18 then. So obviously there are a couple of games today. Obviously the reason why I prompted this video, we got West Ham versus Brentford live from the London Stadium. Prediction on this one, I'm going to go 1-1. I was tempted to go for a West Ham win, but I just don't think they've got it in them. And Brentford, I think, are the club at the moment that have the most draws in the league, especially away from home. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw there. I've also got Liverpool versus Leicester tonight as well. Liverpool at Anfield. I do see Liverpool turning Leicester over. I don't think Leicester have anything for them. Did Leicester beat Liverpool this season already 1-0? I cannot remember. I think it might have been. I can't remember. But Liverpool versus Leicester at Anfield. I'm going to go with a Liverpool win, and I think that will be 3-1 to Liverpool tonight. Moving on to tomorrow, early kickoff for Molineux was Wolverhampton versus Manchester United. I will go with a Manchester United win, and I think that will be 2-0. We'll go to Manchester City versus Everton at the Etihad. I'm going 4-0. To be quite honest, I think Manchester City are absolutely going to move to Everton. Move to them. It might even be more. I think Haaland gets a hat-trick in that game as well, because Everton just seemingly cannot defend for toffee at the moment. And that was not a pun intended, I promise you. Manchester City 4. I will go 5. We'll go Man City 5, Everton 0. 3 o'clock kickoff, that one. Another 3 o'clock kickoff, Fulham versus Southampton. This is live from Craven Cottage. I'll go Fulham win again. Mitrovic to be on the score sheet again. I think he's going to get a brace. Southampton will probably concede 2-3. We'll go 3-0 Fulham. We'll go 3-0 Fulham. I don't see Southampton scoring a goal there, to be quite honest. Another 3 o'clock kickoff, Bournemouth versus Crystal Palace. I see that one being a draw. Based on the last few results of these two, I don't see much separating from the norm. Palace were in a decent run of form before they obviously stopped learning how to score goals, and Bournemouth are very, very hot and cold at the moment. I see that one being a 1-1 draw, so I'll go for 1-1 there. Newcastle versus Leeds United from St James's Park. Newcastle home win for me there. I will go 2... No, I won't. I'll go 3-1. I think there's going to be a lot of goals in all these games, actually, around about the Christmas, New Year period. I really do see it. Newcastle 3-1 against Leeds. Almiron to score again. He scored last game. I was meant to mention it earlier. Completely forgot. Almiron to score again for me. And I'm pretty certain he'll be on some kind of record there if that happens. I think he's on, what, an 8-game winning streak? 8-game scoring streak. Or is it 9 games now? Didn't Jamie Vardy have like a 10-game scoring streak or something? I think he's around about that mark anyway. So I'll keep an eye out on that. The late kickoff is coming from the Amex Stadium, which is obviously Brighton, and they host Arsenal. And this is where I think the wheels are going to start to fall off for Arsenal, because Brighton were in really decent form. Arsenal obviously were in very decent form. But at Brighton, under the lights, it's one of those teams that are very nitty and will get at you. They'll be on top of you for the majority of the game as well. Whilst Arsenal are playing really good football, I do envisage this being a little bit of a stumbling block for them. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. I think Brighton needs to do us all a favour, to be quite honest. They need to do it for the culture. So go out Brighton and go and mash them up and do whatever else you need to do in order for them to not get the 3 points, because I'm tired of this. I'm literally tired of this. It needs to stop. Thank you. From then, the game I'm at, Tottenham versus Aston Villa live from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I'm going to go with a 2-1 home win for us. We'll obviously make hard work of it, because we always do. I think Rodrigo Bentancur is going to be back as well. So he'll be in the starting lineup. I think Christian Romero, I saw him back in training. I think he got back about 3 days ago. So he's back in training as well. Whether he starts or not is a different story. Lloris will be recalled. He'll be back in the first team. Concern for me is Son. I don't know what's happening with Son at the moment, to be quite honest. He seems his confidence is really, really low at the moment. And I want to know the reason as to why that is, because he hasn't done anything since he scored a hat-trick against Leicester, which, funnily enough, is his only Premier League goals this season. And we've played 15, 16 games now. So, match day 17, I need Son to pull it out for me against Aston Villa. And he has a decent record against Aston Villa. He scored a hat-trick against them last season at Villa Park, if I recall correctly. Yeah. So I'll be looking for him and Kane to obviously do the business. Kulusevski as well as Kulusevski. He's our outlet, and I just hope Emerson Royal never sees the light of day ever again. But that's just me, innit? And the final game of match week 18 is Nottingham Forest versus Chelsea. That is on the Sunday at 4:30. It's live from the City Ground. I've got Forest to win. I genuinely believe Forest are going to beat Chelsea. Forest have already got scalps against Liverpool, and I think who else did they play? Can't remember. It's another team that they played really, really well there against and won the game. I can't remember who it is, but Liverpool absolutely beat them 1-0. It's one of those grounds. Nottingham Forest's home form is going to be paramount to them staying in the league, and I do see Chelsea slipping up there. I really, really do. I think Nottingham Forest would have too much for them. And that's my roundup. That is my roundup. Next set of fixtures, I believe, are next week, Saturday. So I'll probably do a video sort of Thursday, Friday. But obviously, once that's done, you'll get the notification once it's obviously dropped and that. But if you have any questions or queries or football chat, bring it to me. I love it. I want to banter. I want to chat football. Obviously, keep the conversation going, innit? Keep it going, because I enjoy this. I live for this stuff. So yeah, we'll have another conversation later on. I said it before, Happy New Year. If I didn't mention it before, Happy New Year to you and yours. Everyone stay safe, be responsible, and I'll see you soon.